The traditional agricultural business model traps you in a relentless cycle of spending every single year. You buy seeds, you till the soil, you apply fertilizer, you harvest, and then you start the expensive process all over again the next spring. If you want to build true generational wealth on your land, you must shift your perspective from annual expenses to permanent agricultural assets. We're talking about planting perennial tree crops that you put in the ground exactly one time, and they continue to yield high-value harvests for the next 300 years. This is the ultimate economic leverage, transforming a piece of raw land into a multi-generational cash flow engine. The absolute king of this strategy is the olive tree. Olive orchards planted by the Romans are incredibly still producing fruit today, proving that a single planting can outlive entire empires. From a modern business perspective, olives offer an incredibly lucrative dual market. You can sell whole, cured fruits to premium culinary markets or press them into cold extracted olive oil, which is a highly stable, high-margin liquid asset that increases in value with specialized regional branding. Moving from oils to staple carbohydrates, the second permanent crop is the sweet chestnut tree. Historically known as the bread tree, a mature chestnut orchard can produce the same caloric yield per acre as a wheat field, but without ever requiring a tractor or a plow. Chestnuts are seeing a massive resurgence in gluten-free and premium baking markets, and because the trees routinely live for hundreds of years, you are securing a permanent, drought-resistant food source that requires almost zero inputs once established. By planting these specific varieties, you eliminate the annual labor costs that typically bankrupt small farms, replacing them with a permanent biological infrastructure that grows more valuable and productive with every passing decade. Continuing the strategy of planting permanent wealth, we look to the desert climates and drought-prone regions where water costs normally destroy farming margins. The third crop is the pistachio tree. Pistachios are one of the most profitable nuts on the global market, commanding luxury prices due to their massive demand in both snacking and high-end culinary applications. A properly managed pistachio orchard takes several years to reach commercial production. But once it gets there, these incredibly tough trees can comfortably produce heavy yields for well over 300 years. They thrive in poor soils and intense heat, turning marginal, low-cost real estate into a highly profitable nut-producing factory. Similarly lucrative but suited for different climates is the fourth crop, the Mediterranean stone pine, which produces the legendary and incredibly expensive pine nut. Pine nuts retail for astronomical prices because harvesting them is traditionally labor-intensive, but the tree itself is a masterclass in long-term survival. These majestic pines live for centuries, require absolutely zero irrigation once established, and naturally suppress weeds beneath their canopy through acidic needle drop. The beauty of the stone pine from a business perspective is that you are growing a pure luxury commodity that has no cheap commercial substitute. Pesto makers, high-end bakeries, and gourmet chefs must buy authentic pine nuts regardless of the market price. By dedicating even a small portion of your acreage to these ultra-long-lived luxury nut trees, you are essentially building a botanical savings account. You absorb the initial waiting period for the trees to mature, but your grandchildren will still be harvesting high-value luxury crops from the exact same root systems without ever having to replant, till the soil, or buy expensive chemical fertilizers, securing a virtually pure profit margin for generations.
When evaluating multi-century crops, you must also consider the dual-purpose nature of large hardwood nut trees, which bring us to our fifth and sixth crops, the pecan and the English walnut. Both of these massive canopy trees are absolute powerhouses of agricultural economics. A grafted pecan orchard can easily live and produce commercial nut harvest for over 3 centuries. The market for pecans is incredibly stable, driven by both domestic baking traditions and massive international export demand. Pecans require very little daily management, allowing a single operator to manage hundreds of acres of permanent production using mechanical tree shakers and automated harvesting equipment. This drastically reduces the crushing labor costs associated with traditional vegetable farming. The English walnut operates on a very similar economic model but offers a slightly different climate tolerance. thriving in regions with distinct cold hours. Walnut trees grow rapidly and produce heavy annual crops of high-protein nuts that are a staple in global diets. However, the hidden economic brilliance of both the pecan and the walnut lies in their timber value. While the primary business model is selling the annual nut harvest for centuries, the sheer physical wood of these trees is among the most valuable luxury hardwoods on the planet. If a future generation ever decides to exit the farming business, a mature walnut or pecan orchard can be sold as veneer-quality timber for millions of dollars. You are basically harvesting a high-margin food crop every single autumn, while the physical structure of the factory itself appreciates in value every single day. This dual-yield approach makes these large nut trees the ultimate defensive agricultural investment, providing both immediate cash flow through food production and an incredibly lucrative long-term equity asset stored directly in the wood. The seventh and final crop for your 300-year agricultural portfolio is a carob tree. This is perhaps the most underrated permanent cash crop available to dryland farmers today. Carob trees produce massive yields of sweet, highly nutritious pods that serve as a premium chocolate substitute, a high-energy livestock feed, and a heavily utilized stabilizing agent in the commercial food industry. The tree itself is virtually indestructible, capable of living for centuries in absolutely brutal, water-starved environments where traditional crops will completely wither and die. Carob has a massive, deep taproot system that finds hidden water reserves, meaning once the tree survives its first few years, your irrigation costs drop to absolute zero. The global market for carob powder and locust bean gum is growing rapidly as the food industry searches for sustainable, drought-resistant ingredients. By planting carob, you are capitalizing on extreme climate resilience, ensuring that your agricultural business remains highly profitable even during severe multi-year droughts. The overarching economic thesis of planting these 7 multi-century crops is about stepping off the annual farming treadmill. You are making a profound shift from being a laborer who constantly fights nature to being a land manager who partners with deep-rooted biology. Yes, the upfront capital and the initial waiting period require patience and financial planning, but the long-term payoff is entirely unmatched in the agricultural world. You are creating a food-producing ecosystem that will outlast you, your children, and your grandchildren. You eliminate the cost of seeds, tillage, and constant replanting, resulting in a business model with incredibly low overhead and heavily protected profit margins. You are no longer just growing a season of food. You are planting an unstoppable legacy of permanent wealth.